Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Jeremy, founder of QuickMail.io.
And this is Jack from emailsthatsell.com.
Today,
Teardown. All right, so this is a kind of a special thing. But as you probably know, Jeremy and I have finally put together a complete cold email outreach course to celebrate, because it's taken 3 years to actually get this thing to the production level that we are happy with. To celebrate, we want to play a game with our listeners on the podcast.
Well, in fact, it's kind of a spoiler, but Jack and I had a game for like many episodes already. And in fact, you may have heard Jack and I like saying some weird word like, origami or some
Shoebox or
some
Tetris.
Some stuff like that. And it's just like, that's kind of an odd example, you may have think. The reason for it, I'm going to spoil it now, but the reason for it is because before each episode, Jack and I, to keep ourselves on our toes, we gave ourselves a secret word to say.
And we only find out about this word the moment we press record.
That's right.
So in our heads, we have to figure out how to place words like chicken soup or jazz into this podcast episode. So what's the offer for our listeners?
Well, hold on before the offer. I think one thing we'd love to do is you also kind of like participate to that. So obviously we gave like a few of those keywords, so it's only going to count from this episode onwards. But for the listener and the first listener actually, who can find out one of the secret words, whether it's Jack's secret word or my secret words,
in each episode
from now, can send us an email, podcast@quickmail.io, with as a title, the number of the podcast, as well, followed up by the person who said the secret word and then the secret word.
If you can do that, if you can find the strange word that either Jeremy or I said in this episode and pretty much all future episodes, you get a treat from us.
That's right. What do we get, Sir Jack?
You're going to get 15 minutes on a Zoom conference call with me and Jeremy before we actually, do our thing and podcast together. But you'll have a chance to, ask us anything, right?
That's right. It will be your 15 minutes. We can, if you want me to type some code for 15 minutes, I type some code. If you want Jack to, just have fun in front of the camera, he will do that for you, I'm sure.
If you want me to sing a country song,
That's
I can. But you'll probably ask us some cold email stuff.
Right.
So anyways, maybe one extra reason to pay close attention to this and future casts.
Yes. A good thing would be if you want a review of your existing cold email campaign, or if you want some ideas about some prospecting or some research that you can be performing, you'll have like 2 brains just dedicated on helping you for the fun of it, really, honestly.
That's right. So have some fun, listen in, and try and win yourself some free brainstorming time with your favorite podcast hosts on cold email. All right, we're doing a teardown today from an email that was sent from I believe, an outsourced IT
That's right.
agency, right? Now, before we dive into it, I have a feeling this email's working for them, but there's, as always, some room for improvement. But you're going to hear, in my case, a pretty good email that I'm sure is getting responses. Jeremy, we'll get your take in a minute. Let me run through this copy for you right now. The subject line is company in Q4.
And company being the name of the company they contact.
Yeah, it's a merge tag. So that said, this is kind of a lengthier email. So instead of reading all of it at once, let's break it down in chunks. I'll start off with the introduction. It says, "Hi, first name. I was reading about company for a while and have heard that you are looking for smart people to join your team. I thought that the time was right to ping you." Okay, so that's the intro they used. Jeremy, I'd love to hear your take on that.
I think so far it's just like classical. They just reply to the question I had in my mind as to why am I receiving the email? I may be hiring at the moment, effectively.
Right.
And what goes through my mind is another agency, contacting me, just trying to place some of their people or maybe their services.
True. So obviously they didn't win you over with this sentence. I'm wondering, is there anything they could have done differently?
Of course, they could have reached out to me personally instead of my needs, right? So rather than actually going after like, hey, you seem to be hiring, hey, wink, wink kind of thing. It could have been like, hey, Jeremy, I've been, reading your blog, big fan of the podcast.
Yeah.
And I just noticed that you were hiring. So I had to jump on this. And right away, it's just like, okay, we're playing a different league here.
That's right. So emphasis on the personal introduction sentence here. This stuff really works. Comment from me on the intro. I thought it was interesting. They probably knew or could have pulled in the exact job title this person was hiring for, but they chose to leave it broad, and I like that. I think sometimes if we overdo the specifics, we make it plain that we just copy pasted or scraped a particular thing and dropped it in. It sort of reads like a merge tag this. At least I'll give them the benefit that it feels like, okay, well, they've done research and they feel like they don't need to overemphasize that.
Yeah, it could be like my company is growing. There's maybe multiple job position to be filled, and therefore it's smarter to leave it broad in that case. That's right.
So let's keep going with the email here. The next paragraph, it's a couple sentences. It says, this is not your ordinary, quote, we have guys who can code email. Within our company, we have several labs that focus on Node, React.js, React Native, Angular, and we've got tons of experience with vanilla JS, HTML, and CSS. Kind of a mouthful. Thoughts, Jeremy?
Yeah, so surprising, like a good point from me.
Okay, we're about to hear something good. All right, let's hear it.
They actually just answered my objection. It's a very crowded market. I'd like to get your take on that, like maybe at the end of the cast, how you can really stand apart in a very blood, red ocean kind of thing. But this is obviously, if I read until this, I will give them the benefit of the doubt for the next paragraph because like, oh, okay, you know what I'm thinking already. So you're going to come with something good, hopefully like good reason for
That's
that.
Right.
But unfortunately, caveat, I don't use Node, I don't use React.js. So they've done like a pretty piss poor job at effectively nailing down the type of technology that I go after. And you can't really use that as a template because it's basically everything, from React to Angular to Node. So they kind of like cast a wide net, which
That's
kind of
true.
defeat the purpose or actually cancel the benefit of going super narrow.
Would have been cool here is if instead of dropping in all the technologies they can code in, instead use a merge tag. So, And for our less technical listeners, it's possible to deduce what language you're writing in.
Let's look at if they're looking that I'm hiring because of my job.
There you go.
spec,
it's listed there, right?
It's listed there, right?
Perfect.
I'm not saying that any programmer who can like code anything, come to my company.
Come one, come all. That's true. Very true. So if you're listening, take away, you want to use merge tags instead of just a shotgun. Hope this works.
That's right. Go all the way in instead of just the surface.
Now, before we move on to the next section, I actually really did like, this is not your ordinary, we have guys who can code email sentence. I thought, just like you, I was like, okay, this is interesting. But then they didn't separate themselves. And I was upset that they didn't clearly lay out how they are not your ordinary, we have guys who can code agency.
My take on that was, it's going to come.
Okay, interesting.
So you're spoiling it for the listener. Obviously, that's not going to come. Sorry, guys, to brag it to you. But yeah.
To be clear, I thought it was going to immediately follow that sentence.
Yeah.
All right. So here we are. Following, it says, company, similar to our clients like Fly Victor, Bleacher Report, Fail Army, was carefully chosen, studied, and considered to be contacted.
Yeah, and company again being the merge tag. So it'd be like QuickMail, similar to.
I have to say, though, if you are going to tell somebody that your company was carefully chosen, studied, and considered to be contacted, why not say because and then insert whatever it was that signaled they were a good fit for this email? I mean, I don't buy it because if something was carefully considered, don't you think they could have just thrown in a merge tag that said, and we picked you because, we perform especially well with teams that do X, Y, Z.
I love it. And when they are listing all their technology, saying like, we can do everything for you, even the technology you're not interested in, and then saying afterward, like, we selected you, carefully. It's just like,
exactly.
It's kind of like doesn't work. But I got to give them 1 point for trying to drop some names here. There's 2 problems with this one. The first one is I don't know any of those names. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I know a couple of them.
Oh, you do?
Yeah,
okay. Yeah. Well, maybe it works better in your case than in mine.
Yeah.
But it's just like, it doesn't really add anything for me specifically because it's like, are they good for maybe technology? Do
I
they
see what
actually
you're
add
saying.
anything? Because they're selling something on technology. So I don't know if those companies that you know are actually technologically advanced.
Think like Bleacher Report, I think is like a sports blog with like apps and stuff. Yeah.
So not very technological advanced, kind of in like digital age.
That I couldn't tell you. But either way, it sounds like you couldn't relate to the clients they dropped in. And I have to say, you need to be able to if you're going to say your company is similar to our clients like.
That's right.
Which, by the way, guys, that can be a merge tag. You can adopt which companies you choose to name drop depending on who you're reaching out to.
Mm-hmm.
You're reaching out to SaaS companies. Well, name some of the SaaS companies you work with. You're reaching out to
we've done the checkouts of
Whole Foods,
of Nike, Nike and stuff.
It follows. We build dedicated remote engineering, and have 150 employees worldwide.
Good advantage, solid advantage here in terms of 10 years haven't lost a client. I think that's pretty good for an agency, definitely.
Yeah.
Then the 3% at the top of the market, that's arguable. That's obviously something that it's hard to really pinpoint, but the client is like, it's difficult to argue with if that's the case.
That's true. So for those of you listening, notice how one of these benefits was much stronger, in Jeremy's opinion, and I'm going to agree with him there, than the other one. So anytime you have something that can be refuted, oh, really, top 3%? I'm not sure about that. But the 10 years we haven't lost a client, my advice, I would have ran with that benefit in this and, save the other ones for follow-up email.
In fact, I would have used these benefits in this is not your ordinary, we
there
have guys who can code. None of our clients left us.
League of their own, right?
Exactly.
That is impressive. And as long as they're not lying, most companies can benefit from working with top engineers who understand your domain.
No, I prefer to work with engineers who
don't know anything.
Who don't know anything. But come on.
All right. Can we agree that this sentence should have been axed?
Absolutely.
As nothing.
No value.
Yep. All right. Let's hear the CTA. Would you like to explore via email if a larger conversation makes sense?
That's an interesting one. Usually, it's by phone. So it piques my curiosity here as to, that's weird. Why don't you ask me for a phone conversation?
Okay, so is it a positive or negative that they mention email to you?
Well, it's kind of, I would prefer that they say by phone or email to give me the benefit of the choice, because basically that would be focused on me and not them.
True.
And then now in the back of my head is like, why is phone not okay? And I'm like thinking like, what, you don't speak well English, or there is some problem in communication that you prefer by email? And it's just like, if they give me the choice, fine, we can do anything for you. And it starts with the mode of communication.
That's
true. So that's okay. That's cool. But this way is slightly odd. What do you got?
I liked how it was a simple yes or no question. They didn't put a whole lot of effort on your side. So I'm a fan of easy to answer call to actions. But I'm not sure this is the most enticing one they could have used. Put yourself in the prospect's shoes for a moment. What if they asked you, Jeremy, are you open to considering positions filled by agencies?
That's a good filter. I like that. That's probably the point number one on the list before even like seeing further. It's like, are you in for that stuff, or do you feel like you need to fill it internally?
That's true. That's a deal breaker for some people who are hiring teams.
And you know what? If they went like, hey, hear me out 2 seconds, which is basically what they say by this is not your ordinary. We haven't lost a client, but we make sure that our client actually do work with agency. Are you open to working with agency, or do you have to specifically
fill this in-house?
In-house.
Yeah.
If you would have framed it like that, I'll be like more like, oh, that's interesting. And if I consider working with agency, I'll definitely reply to that one.
Very cool. Okay. So fortunately, we have a follow-up email that we're going to tear down as well. But before we do, any other thoughts on this first initial outreach?
Yeah, there's one thing I want to get your take on, actually, Jack, is like we mentioned, SEO services, outsourced development, all those services.
Lead gen.
Yeah, to some extent.
Yeah.
All those services are in a very, red ocean.
Yeah,
right?
competitive.
Extremely competitive.
Why is it competitive? First thing in my mind is it's really easy to grab a list of emails and send email. It's kind of for free. And not everyone's great at it, but a lot of people are doing it.
Exactly. And in a prospect mind, because we keep on receiving those emails, we're going to filter as soon as this is one of those, it's just yet another service again. And it's very hard to just stop on those and consider they may have a genuine offer, they may even be good and they may be even, the right type for your agency. The problem is we are not going to spend the amount of time in due diligence because there's just too many of them.
Okay.
In my mind. So saying yes to an agency by email is going to be extremely difficult. It's going to have to be me doing my own research. Are you happy with and so on?
Okay.
Just because the choice is there's too much choice.
Think about what we mentioned as we did some teardowns. We mentioned right off the bat, if they would have mentioned, hey, Jeremy, I saw from the podcast that you guys were hiring. By the way, I'm a huge fan. Anyway, I wanted to reach out because we're not like, guys who can code agency. We haven't lost a client in 10, and then you're starting to separate yourself from the pack.
100%.
So if they did a really good job, correct me if I'm wrong, but they could have gotten a reply from you if it's relevant. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's just say for uber competitive markets, there's less margin for error. You have to do your very best. You have to send a damn good cold email your first go round if you want that reply.
And look exceptional, but taking one step back. Like we mentioned, we still believe in that we're happy to give you a developer for 1 week because we're in for the long term.
And you can probably afford to give a lot to these prospects.
And we had like a trial period.
Did they charge you up front?
They gave me one to work with a certain company. You'll go the extra leg. So when people are telling me, if they had gone to, we want so much to work with you, we'll give you that trial for free. If you come and join, it's like, okay, cool. They're serious. They have skin in the game. And so I'm willing to then spend some of my time to try what they have to offer.
And notice that offer probably isn't presented very frequently. Maybe this is the first time that recipient is saying, wow, I can work with a developer for a week, totally free and see if it's working. I mean, that's one of the ways you can separate yourself.
And you brought a great point here. And probably like my final thoughts on that, because we've been like a long time on this for Teardown. But if everyone was proposing like a free trial, then we'll come back to square one. It'll be again the same thing. There's just too many of them and I wouldn't pick one of them.
There you go. But for now, understand what's going on and see where you can stand out. We're going to read the follow-up for you. It's shorter and the body goes like this. Hey, first name, just give me a sign that you have had a chance to review the email I've sent you earlier this week. We work with the top 3% remote developers from Eastern Europe and South America. As a person in charge of the product team at company, would you be interested in hiring talented UI and Node developers? Let me know if you'd like to explore more. Signature.
Yeah, there's one thing we didn't talk about actually is the title of that person. So he's a senior project manager reaching out to me. What do you make of that? Do you have any view on this?
Well, not a whole lot. I've seen success even just signing at business development, and I've seen success writing founder. I sort of feel like the higher up you're signing, as long as it's believable, the better reply rate you can get. But it's, in my opinion, not a make or break option.
Agree with that. The only thing I would say is that it sounds odd to me that a senior project manager is doing the prospecting stuff.
Right. Maybe they were afraid of signing biz dev.
Possibly.
Yeah. Interesting. Line 1, just give me a sign that you have had a chance to review the email I sent you earlier this week.
Does clicking on spam actually send them a signalation?
I don't think so, but I take it that's not your favorite way to start off a follow-up email.
I don't like that.
All right, we can boo. Okay. Thoughts on how they could have done better with the introduction?
Well,
what if they deleted it? Would it be a stronger email? What if they just started with, hey, Jeremy, we work with the top 3%. Would you be interested in hiring talented UI and Node developers?
Definitely, I think they could have axed it.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't think it adds any value beside I'm annoyed I still didn't receive an answer from you. At least you could move.
True.
Come on.
All right. I'm in agreement there. Now,
hold on. There is one thing that they could have done, but that requires a lot more work, is doing a personalization on the follow-up as well. Like saying, hey, your last podcast, it reminded me that, or something like that. But actually just try to find an encore.
I don't have a whole lot to say other than the main benefit. And they also added some new information about Eastern Europe and South American developers. So the developer talent you get is, incredible. We're talking top 3%, whatever that means. And you don't have to pay, European wages or Western wages or whatever you want to word that. But translate that into an end benefit for your reader.
Spot on. So there's a couple of things on my end. First of all, it's interesting that they decided to repeat the benefit that we didn't single out as the strongest one.
That's true.
The second thing is
Which
that could have just been.
Sorry to interrupt,
No, go
but
ahead.
I want you as a listener to understand that all this benefit would have needed in order to be a particular award,
According to
or all your developers have passed this certain certification. Buddy could write, I work with the top 1% developers in the house I grew up with.
I'd be curious to know how they decide 3%, not 4%.
Yeah.
Where's their bar?
That's true.
So I was mentioning that it will have been more probably clever to actually cut the benefit in two. Mention the strong one like the 10-year in the first email and completely zap on the 3%. And on the follow-up, just mention the 3% and explain why it's a benefit. So like you mentioned, the money was actually a very good benefit. It's like, otherwise, why would I want to work with people in Eastern Europe and South America?
Right, exactly. I want to draw our attention to the call to action. This is, holy cow, please, you're listening to this, you care about sending very good cold emails. So take this or more. Do you know how easy that is to ignore? It doesn't even ask them to do anything. That ends with, let me know if you'd like to know more. No, it says, go here to...
let me know on the cast. No one will send you an email to say, this advertisement.
I can't bash the CTA that hard and not offer a opportunity to make it better. After this conversation, something I would love to test out is a CTA that said something like, would you like me to set you up with a free week with one of our top developers? And then good luck ignoring that. Seriously, I mean,
Boom.
I don't know if that's going to translate to a profit in your business, but in terms of getting leads in and trial started, that's pretty effective.
I mean, you nailed it here. And that could actually be a very good way of following up on their 3%. So it's like, in fact, we're so sure they're really good.
Yeah.
You can have them, 1 week on trial and see for yourself. And that's very powerful.
Yeah.
Instead, what's interesting as well here is they went from broad to specific. So, in terms of technology, they said like everything, like,
in the first email.
With developer. It's just like, why did they actually do it the opposite way, which is like, we got top UI and not developers. And then after that, say, it's those technology. If you are already settled and nailed down for those technology, we also have other technology that could be of interest to you. That would work better, I think.
I think so too. Hey, cold emailer.
Yeah, you.
If you got some value from this episode, give us a high five by sharing a 2-sentence review on iTunes.
Or Stitcher or Tuning. That works too.
It's a quick way to help other growth-minded folks like us find this podcast.
So they can send awesome emails.
And make everyone's inbox a better place. Thanks.